Hi, my name is Alex Dobie. I'm here with Andrew Martinick. And Andrew, it is time for the first time to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S9. And as we're recording this, just coming out of CES, we've had the first sort of official acknowledgement of Samsung of the GS9.
It does exist.
It does exist, or it will exist
in the future.
Near future. So, we had Samsung's mobile boss, DJ Ko, today confirming in an interview that it will be landing at Mobile World Congress at the end of February. And that is really sort of the start of the GS9 hype train. But let's take a step back a little bit because, of course, in addition to sort of the official acknowledgement, we have the many rumors and leaks that have been, the standard sort of lead up. Yeah, the standard lead up to any new Samsung, really any new big smartphone launch. And just starting with the basics, we know there will be two phones. There'll be an S9, there will be an S9 Plus. And actually the difference between those two is kind of interesting right now.
Yeah, so unlike this year, last year, the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, it was really just larger screen, larger battery. But this time, it's going to bring down the dual camera system, similarly to the Note 8, down to just the S9 Plus. So there's going to be this differentiation here with actual feature differences between the two, which we haven't had for a while.
Yeah, and this information comes from the CAD leaks that we see going into the sort of hype cycle of a new Samsung phone. CAD leaks for the smaller one show basically a very Galaxy S8 sort of influenced design, as you would expect, a few sort of small tweaks here and there, but really not messing too much with what was a very solid and very well-liked design. The S9 Plus things are a bit different. Of course, both phones, we should say, have that fingerprint sensor relocated, it would seem.
A little bit lower underneath the two cameras or the single camera on the S9.
Still a little bit sort of precarious in terms of the placement next to the camera, but it's going to be a whole lot easier to reach if these renders are to be believed. But yeah, dual camera, so you can probably imagine based off what we saw with the Note 8 that this is going to be probably a telephoto and a wide angle.
And we're still expecting OIS on both cameras. What we don't know is where they're going to go with the camera sensors. They've been using a very similar camera setup since the Galaxy S7, and they've of course added a second camera with the Note 8. They've made a couple lens changes and things like that. And of course we know that processing makes a huge difference, but
absolutely,
we really think that Samsung needs to step up the game a little bit. I mean, we've seen what the Pixel 2 XL can do, and that's definitely ahead of the Galaxy S8. So if they want to keep in that conversation as they really were with the Galaxy S7 leading the industry, they're going to have to step up their game in the camera more than just the two lenses.
Yeah, and it's going to be about more than the hardware. Cameras in phones right now are about so much more than the hardware. The Pixel proves that with processing actually stepping it comfortably above what you see with a traditional, OIS plus relatively big pixels. So yeah, that's what I think Samsung needs to bring forward and actually just step up the processing so it can match the Pixel in those really tough low light conditions and also high contrast conditions. That's what I'm really hoping for from the camera on this thing. Of course, we know a lot more about the hardware, the internal hardware of this, than just the camera, because Samsung has already announced the new Exynos 9 series chip that will power this phone, not here in the US, but in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Presumably, yeah, that's the way it's been. So the US will get the Snapdragon 845, which we've talked about before on the site.
Powerful chip in its own right, absolutely.
Exactly, yeah, second gen 10 nanometer process. But we also have a new Samsung chip, which, like a lot of chips from other companies like Huawei, is focusing on neural networking and machine learning and all that good stuff. Elsewhere, you have kind of incremental improvements. But you're also looking at some sort of important graphical changes and support for displays at a 4K resolution.
And does that mean that they're going to be going up to a 4K display? It's really tough. I mean, the current Galaxy S8, it has a 2K display, but it doesn't even run at that full resolution out of the box.
For a long time, I've said that this display scaling feature coming to Samsung phones, could well mean the display supports 4K. Probably not going to run in 4K mode most of the time. It could well mean that it's just limited to VR devices. And of course, VR is the biggest use case for that, for such a high resolution display anyway.
And especially with Samsung now supporting Daydream and of course having its own Gear VR system, these higher end processors with even more graphical power could very possibly run these displays at their native resolution. And that's really getting into the range where you start thinking, okay, you get rid of a lot of that screen door effect.
Yeah, and actually interesting to see that some of the specific rumors coming out around specs for this thing. So the headphone jack, which has been going away, unfortunately, in a lot of phones recently. I've been experiencing this week covering CES. one of the phones that I have, the only phone is the Samsung phone, the Note 8, that has that 3.5mm jack. Supposedly the S9 and S9 Plus will keep that, which is great.
So we had a little bit of a statement that came out that they're going to continue to use it, or they're going to continue to have an FM radio chip in the S9 and S9 Plus, and in order for that to work, you also need a headphone jack because the headphones work as the antenna for the radio. So kind of a little backdoor way to figure out that the headphone jack will still be there.
Other spec rumors, we've heard some reports, and again, no idea how accurate this is. 3200 milliamp hour battery for the smaller one, so a comfortable bump above what we had in the smaller S8. Again, Samsung last year, understandably, was quite conservative in the capacity of batteries included. 3500 for the S8 Plus, 3300 for the Note, so not really pushing things out too much. Maybe now, hopefully, we're starting to see other companies put these 4000 milliamp hour batteries in phones like HTC, like Huawei. Hopefully Samsung is starting to become a bit more sort of bold and recover fully from the Note 7 fiasco. So we'll have to, I'm hoping with the bigger S8 because the bigger S9, that just like the S8, you'll have maybe a similar bump, so maybe moving up towards like
3600, 37,
that would be nice. And of course, with these more efficient internals as well, hopefully you'd see a nice healthy bump in battery life.
And interestingly, we've actually seen Samsung get away from the super thin phones after doing the Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge. Of course, horrible battery life at that time. Of course, with things getting more efficient, that definitely helps as well. But we actually got thicker with the S7 and S8 than what they had with the S6.
No one really noticed, right? No one really cared.
No,
people
because
appreciated the bigger batteries. They appreciated that you could actually hold the phone and not drop it.
Yeah, coming with a little more ergonomic curve around the sides, curve around the glass on the back. Those things make subtle differences to the way a phone feels in terms of its thickness. And maybe they go just a little bit thicker, or they are able to reposition things to get a larger battery. And either way, we're looking at an S9 Plus that's going to have a considerably larger battery than the Note 8 already has.
Yeah, and that should be great. That should be a substantial improvement. And actually, funny you mentioned the Note, because you have this sort of 6-monthly cadence between the S whatever Plus and the Note. And, Note 8 buyers maybe who picked it up, thinking that they would have these special features like the dual camera, like the S Pen. Actually, the fact that now the S9 Plus is looking like it has a dual camera.
And the same 6 GB of RAM, a couple things like that.
It maybe puts the Note line, or either one of those two devices, in sort of a precarious position because you have this 6-monthly cycle. What is special about the Note anymore? We often ask this question.
Really seems like it will be just the S Pen at this point, especially if Samsung decides to up the screen size just a tiny bit more. It could be the same screen size as the Note 8 as well.
Yeah. It's hard to. The Note is already quite hard to one hand. So
7-inch Note. Get ready for it.
And actually, maybe the better question is, with the Note 9 coming, what is special about that? We've heard that maybe that is going to be the generation where we get under display fingerprint sensor, which we've seen recently from Vivo. Maybe that'll be the device that Samsung chooses for that. But we'll just have to see what they do. Obviously, phones continuing to get better and better is a good problem to have.
And we're going to learn so much more about the Galaxy S9 in these next few weeks. So as we're here at CES, we're talking about an MWC launch. That's in the last week of February. So we're only about 6 weeks away from the full launch of the phone.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that, these leaks come thick and fast in the couple weeks ahead of time as vendors and partners start to get a hold of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that means that maybe you'd be looking at, because the S8 was, I think, launched towards the end of March last year.
Yeah.
You're looking at maybe being sort of a month up in terms of just the general timing of everything in this phone coming to market. So you would very much expect it to be on store shelves by probably mid-March.
Yeah, that's a good guess, especially in the key markets in North America, Western Europe, and then South Korea. Of course, they're gonna probably do their thing where they get it a couple weeks early.
For sure.
But that earlier timeline could really line up to just kind of steamroll everything else at MWC.
Yeah, maybe Sony will have their new flagship there. We'll have to see. Maybe there'll be other Snapdragon 845 devices, but it's pretty much guaranteed from Samsung dropping this S9 bomb on that show that press coverage is going to be dominated by this new phone.
It's going to take all the air out of the room, as expected with the big name and the number of sales.
Absolutely. Let's finish off by just talking Bixby real quick. So that was kind of a contentious issue with the S8, which launched with this button which you could not remap. Eventually, we got the option to disable it, but it's still not a massively useful feature.
And we expect S9 Bixby button?
Absolutely, yeah. That's in some of the renders that we've, some of the CAD renders that we've seen. So it's not going to, obviously, we're coming out of CES. Bixby was a huge part of Samsung's CES presence.
If there was any doubt up to that point,
that Bixby is here to stay. And we saw Bixby on fridges and on tons of other devices. We saw a forward-looking sort of teaser video from Samsung at CES looking at Bixby in your car, in your oven, on your watch.
So all these different interface patterns.
Bixby is just holding all this stuff together, and so when you're in your car, you can have it, tell you about things in your home, start the heating, start your oven if you want to. All of these things connecting through this same service, not a unique thing. We've talked about Google Assistant doing something very, very similar. But Samsung obviously has big plans for Bixby, and we'll have to see what comes either with the S9 or maybe later in the year with Bixby 2.0.
Right. That's the one interesting thing. We know that DJ Ko, again, he also kind of gave a bit of a statement that Bixby 2.0 is this, who knows what exactly that means, but this next level of Bixby is not coming until later in the year. So we're going to have the Galaxy S9 come out with this kind of iterative thing where, of course, they're always improving on it. But this next generation or whatever release they think it is going to be later, perhaps with the Note 9.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to look forward to as we're recording this video right now. A few weeks to go before the S9 launches, but obviously pretty exciting to be getting into proper launch season now in 2018. And we'll just have to see what happens. Stick with us, and be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube to continue to follow all the Android goodness coming in 2018. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.